Hello and welcome back to MPB. I am Miss Killen here to help you with your ACT Math Portion Boot Camp. So we're going to start back with our question number 6. So we did 1 through 5 in our last video. Today we're going to do 6 through 10. So let's go ahead and look at problem number 6. You're also going to want to have those calculators available because we are going to use some of those calculator skills. So here we go. It says, which of the following matrices is equal to, and then it gives the one here in the white. And so I'm going to rewrite it so we can see exactly what it looks like. So it has 5, and then the matrix of -4, 2, 0, -5. So there's multiple ways that you can do this. You can multiply the 5 into all of the elements, or you can put this in your calculator. If you're going to multiply, you're going to multiply across on top and then across on bottom and put those exactly where they are when you do multiply them. Or you can use a calculator skill. So let's go ahead and pull up that calculator skill. I'm going to pull it up so we can see it here. I'm going to put it half on me and half on this. So first I'm going to plug in that matrix. So I'm going to go to second matrix. See how it's in blue? So I hit the second button to hit that matrix. I'm going to edit number 1. So I'm going to scroll over to edit and press enter. And it is a 2 by 2. So there's 2 across and then 2 down. So I have a 2, enter, 2, enter, and there you go. So then I start putting in all of the elements of this matrix. So let's go ahead and do that. So I've got -4, enter, 2, enter, 0, enter, -5, enter. So I've put in all of my elements of this matrix. So let's go back out to the calculator portion and put that in. So I'm going to do second quit. Now it has 5 times this matrix, so I'm going to put 5. I'm going to go back to my matrix, hit the number 1, and press enter. And there's your answer. And obviously, my answer is going to be J. So there's multiple ways that we can do this. I do want you to know that you can always use your the algebra part. You can always use those calculator skills. You also have that Desmos possibility. So I want us to make sure that we're using all the possible tools that we have for this math portion. All right. So now that we've done problem number 6, let's go ahead and look at problem number 7. All right, it says, Levon purchased some tickets and snack vouchers for an upcoming event and gave them to the members of her work group. Each member of her work group received the same number of tickets and the same number of snack vouchers. The total number of tickets she gave to her group is 30, and the total number of snack vouchers was 75. Which of the following could be the number of members in her work group? All right, so let's go ahead and look. I know that my total tickets equals 30, and I know that my total snack vouchers equals 75. So that's some important information that we need to know. And we also know that each member has the same number. All right, so we need to think, how are we going to do this? Well, first of all, I need to know what my greatest common factor or my greatest common denominator is of these. So you can either use your calculator to find greatest common denominator, or you can find your greatest common factor just using any way of maybe making a chart or knowing that this goes into this one or this one goes into this one. However you need to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use that calculator portion. So I'm going to pull back up my calculator and I'm going to clear it. Now I need to know the greatest common denominator of these two numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my math button. I'm going to scroll right to my numbers and I'm going to scroll all the way down to number 9. And it says GCD. That's greatest common denominator, which is the same thing as our greatest common factor. So I'm going to go ahead and press number 9 and press enter. oops, sorry. I'm going to go ahead and press number 9. Now, it gives me the GCD with the parentheses. So now I'm going to put my two numbers in there. I'm going to put 30, comma, 75 and close that parentheses. So let's do that. I'm putting 30, my comma is above the 7. I'm going to put 75 and close that number, or excuse me, close that parenthesis and press enter, and it gives me 15. 15 is my greatest common denominator, or my greatest common factor, what both of those numbers have in common. All right? So then if I know, that 15 is my greatest common. So let's look at the total number of tickets. So then if I take that 30 and divide it by my greatest common denominator, I'm going to get 2. If I take that 75 and I divide it as well by 15, I am going to get 5. So I can say without the shadow of a doubt that the total number of snack vouchers being 75, the total number of tickets is 30, and everyone gets the same amount, and they want to know how many members are in that work group. I can say that there are 15 members. Now, you're probably going, Miss Killen, why did we get the greatest common denominator? Well, I've got two different amounts, and I need to know what both of those amounts have in common. The greatest common number for both of those amounts, that's when I got my greatest common factor, which is the same thing in your calculator as your greatest common denominator. So that's how we work this one. My answer obviously would have been B. So this is another way for us to look at these different types of questions. So let's go ahead and look at our next one. I'm going to erase while we're reading it. It says the initial speed in miles per hour of a certain car that skids to a stop can be estimated by multiplying the length of the skid in feet by 35 and then taking the square root of the product. According to this method, what is the estimated initial speed in miles per hour of the car when it makes a 108-foot skid? All right, so obviously 108 feet, that's pretty long. All right, so let's see how we're going to work this one. So the problem provides us some specs that we have to realize and a specific simplified formula. It tells us that first we're going to multiply the length by 35. We know that for a fact. Let me get a different marker. Then it also tells us that we're going to take the square root of the product. All right, so it's given us some specifics exactly what we're going to do. So the first thing I need to look at is what? Exactly right. I'm going to take 35 and I'm going to multiply it by the length of that skid. What is the length of that skid? 108. So this is a simple calculator skill. I'm going to plug it into my calculator and take 35 times 108, and I'm going to get 3,780. Then it tells me to take that product and take the square root. Well, is that a perfect square? I don't know. Let's see. So I'm going to take the square root of that 3,780. So I take the square root of 3,780, and I do not get a perfect square. So therefore, I'm going to have to factor some things out. I'm going to have to keep it in this square root form, just factor out everything I can. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look to see what I can pull out of this. What are some factors? How I can possibly take this out? Or I can take this and take all of my possible answers and see which one of them equal. If you need to factor everything out and then look at the problem to see the answers, that's perfectly fine. But what I'm wanting to do is look at what's going to take me the least amount of time to maybe go into a problem that's going to go into more depth. So I'm going to pull my calculator back up, and we're going to do this. So I'm going to enter and clear it. I'm going to take the square root of 3,780 and find the answer. Okay, So now, out of all these possible options, one of these has to equal that. So let's go ahead and look. It says the square root of 143. So let's say the square root of 143. That's not the right answer. So let's do 7 square roots of 105. So 7 square roots of 105. That's not the right answer. Now let's do 6 square roots of 105. So 6 square roots of 105. That's the exact answer. Let's double check and make sure that last one's not a possibility. So let's do 210 square roots of 3. That's definitely not the answer. So I can say from a shadow of a doubt that my answer equals the same thing as H. So I've taken a couple of seconds to get this answer by using what I know equals this to equals this, okay? I could have spent time on taking out all the factors, finding out what I have doubles of, taking those roots out, and leaving what doesn't, or I can take what this square root equals and find out in my answer choices which one equals the exact same amount. So that was a good problem to see both the algebra portion that we could have done or simply go straight to the calculator and use that tool. All right, let's look at the next one. All right, so let me make this one a little bigger. And it says, if 6y equals 5x minus 1, then x equals what? So this is simple algebra. Simple algebra. I am solving for a variable. All right, so let's go ahead and look at this one. So I have 6y equals 5x minus 1. So I've dimmed my light so we can really see what this looks like. All right, so I have 6y. All right, so I have 5x. So here we go. What I need to do is I need to get this x by itself because they want to know what x equals. So I'm going to do opposite operation and get my x by itself. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I have 6y plus 1. Then I am going to have to divide. I'm dividing this whole side by 5. So I'm going to divide this whole other side by 5. So what does my x equal? My x is 6y plus 1 over 5. And what is that possible answer? It's going to be D. Good job. So now I necessarily could not have used my calculator, but what I could have done if you had had time was put it in the Desmos portion, and we will look at using that Desmos portion in some more of these problems and seeing which line would have overlapped our original equation. And that's how we would know that they were the same. All right, so let's look at question number 10. There we go. All right. A boat is traveling at a speed of 30 miles per hour. What is the boat's speed in feet per second? Noting that 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. So this is what we need to do. We are looking to see what my possible answer could be. So let's go ahead and look at this. And I've already done my notes, so I'm going to show you what we've got. So the first thing I need to look at is I know that we are going 30 miles per 1 hour. I also need to know that 5,280 feet is 1 mile. Now, it's wanting me to tell you per second, but it's given me in the problem in hours. So I need to convert those hours into seconds. So I know that 1 hour is what? Well, let's see, 1 hour equals 60 minutes, and 1 minute equals 60 seconds. So if I take 60 minutes and multiply it by the 60 seconds, I will get how many seconds are in an hour, which is 3,600. 100 seconds. All right, so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and eliminate as many of these units as I possibly can by where I'm going to cross mark them out. So I can mark out mile and mile. I can mark out hour and hour. So I'm left with feet over seconds. All right, so now that we've got the measurement portion, let's go ahead and multiply our numbers. So 30 times 5,280 times 1 is going to give me 158,400. And then when I multiply straight across, I get 3,600. Well, that's really big numbers to deal with. And as you notice, that's not possible answers. So what I need to do is I need to put this in my calculator and get this a little bit more user-friendly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in my calculator just the way it is and see what I get. So when I put this in my calculator, 158,400 divided by 3,600, I get what? I get 44 feet over 1 second. Is that what it wanted? Absolutely. So my possible answer is H. Now, the math that we're doing is not math that we've not seen. It's just maybe in a different context than we've looked at. So we still understand crossing out the different measurements. We still understand that when I multiply fractions, I multiply straight across. I've just got to remember how to get those different conversions of your measurements. So the more we practice, the better that we'll get at this content. And then later on in this boot camp videos, I'm going to teach you how maybe we can skip some steps and maybe look at some different strategies to answering these problems. So as always with math, what do you have to do? Exactly right. We have to practice, 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 guys. So as always, I am Ms. Killen. This is MPB for our math portion boot camp. I want you to have a great day and continue that practice.